Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're excited to have everybody here. My name is Art Malkov. I'll be your moderator. And we will be starting in a few minutes. We're actually going to show you first a few videos, kind of the intro. The event will start in 5 minutes. And in the meantime, take a look at this great video. So it's going to give you a little intro about the ecosystem and IoTeX and a little bit of understanding what smart devices and how IoT works. So maybe
Our world is powered by billions of smart devices that generate an incredible amount of data and value. This phenomenon is called the Internet of Things, or IoT. From smart homes and wearables to connected vehicles and renewable energy, the IoT is impacting everyone and everything. But today, the multi-trillion-dollar IoT industry is owned by centralized corporations that control our devices, mine our data, and earn huge profits with no value returned to users. IoTeX is here to change the status quo and build a future that empowers users, not corporations. We envision a world where everyday people can own and control their devices, as well as the data and value they generate. A vision we call the Internet of Trusted Things. By connecting the physical and digital worlds, IoTeX allows us to secure the data from billions of smart devices and extract value from it with next-gen dApps. Join IoTeX as we democratize access to the new machine economy and return power to the people. IoTeX is more than just a blockchain. It's a full-stack platform that enables trusted data from trusted devices for use in trusted applications. The IoTeX platform combines innovations in blockchain, identity, oracles, and hardware to make real-world data available to blockchain dApps for the first time. Secure hardware captures and signs real-world data that anyone can verify and trust. Real-world data oracles bring this verifiable data to the blockchain in a trusted manner. Decentralized identity enables humans and devices to own their data as digital assets. And blockchain enables users to earn and trade digital assets across the ecosystem of IoTeX dApps. The IoTeX blockchain is lightning fast and EVM compatible, allowing builders to port over Solidity-based dApps and tokens in minutes and enjoy ultra-low fees and 5-second block times with instant finality. Governed by a global network of delegates, IoTeX is the trusted and decentralized foundation to power your next big idea. IoTeX is the native token of the IoTeX network. Being an IoTeX token holder grants you voting power and allows you to participate in network governance. IoTeX is a utility token that can be spent and staked to access various applications and services in the IoTeX network. Delegates stake IoTeX to participate in network consensus and earn IoTeX rewards. Developers utilize IoTeX to power their dApps, create new tokens, and fuel crypto economics. Users spend IoTeX to access dApps, register devices, and interact with the network, and can also earn token rewards and voting power by staking IoTeX. The total supply of IoTeX is deflationary thanks to our burn drop tokenomics, where IoTeX is burned and airdropped to users after every new device is registered to the IoTeX network. As the number of dApps, devices, and tokens on IoTeX grows, the value and demand for IoTeX will increase, providing recurring incentives for token holders to grow and maintain the network. The IoTeX network is home to an ecosystem of dApps, tokens, and services that connect the physical and digital worlds. By bringing real-world data to blockchain, IoTeX enables an entirely new category of use cases where users can earn digital assets based on their real-world data and actions. All types of machines can be registered to IoTeX and deliver facts about the real world to the blockchain, a concept we call proof of anything. From proof of activity to fuel decentralized healthcare, to proof of safety to settle insurance contracts, to proof of green energy to fuel renewable energy marketplaces. Real-world data will change everything for blockchain and spark a new era of innovation on IoTeX. With IoTeX, we can unlock liquidity for real-world assets and create brand new digital assets that will flow freely across our network of on-chain applications, information markets, and mining farms. And thanks to cross-chain bridges to Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and other top blockchains, our digital assets will interoperate with the blockchain universe for endless possibilities. Join our global community of pioneers and help shape the future decentralized economy. Welcome to IoTeX.
All right. Well, that was exciting. Hopefully everybody's ready for the panel. We're ready to kick off. In the chat, please tell us how you feel. Are you excited? We're really happy to have you here. And yes, if you have any questions, please drop them throughout the conversation, and we will be addressing questions toward the end of the panel. So without further ado, if you have any questions, like I said, drop in the chat. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our first panelist, Anup Nandra. He's from blockchain segment leader. He's a blockchain segment leader at Amazon. Amazon Web Services is one of the world's largest cloud services providers, and they're exploring blockchain. So let's hear it from Anup a little bit about what they've been doing at AWS and what his role.
Thanks, Art. Thanks for having us, and really excited to talk about the future of blockchain and IoT. So just a little bit about me. I'm the global segment leader for blockchain at AWS, which is, basically I'm responsible for identifying and driving the partner strategy, identifying the use cases, the kinds of verticals and industries that we want to tackle, and developing the right partner ecosystem so that we can actually develop complete and compelling solutions to customer problems, right? So, we're often always kind of focused on, what's the customer outcome? How do we innovate on behalf of the customer, and working with partners to do just that. Been at AWS for 15, 16 months now. And prior to that came from Cisco, where I was the general manager, managing director of the Cisco blockchain business. And during that time, I co-founded and chaired the Trusted IoT Alliance, which was the world's first blockchain and IoT focused industry consortium, and that's where I met the IoTeX team, and have always been really impressed and intrigued by what they're doing, and really looking forward to seeing IoTeX and the broader ecosystem kind of really advance and shape the future of blockchain and IoT. So really excited about that. I also run a sustainability nonprofit called the Open Sustainability Collaborative, and that's where we're focused on developing solutions by investing in people in underserved and underrepresented communities to deliver impact, and then working with innovators from around the world to really create equitable outcomes that in fact manifest themselves as either energy or water or food sustainability solutions. And so really looking forward to seeing some of the outcomes of that. But by and all, I think if I look at the blockchain space, and I look at kind of the domain that's under my purview at AWS, we're excited about the space, and we're constantly exploring more. There's always new things to do. Working with partners like IoTeX, and helping define what it actually means to blockchain enable a thing that talks to the internet. I mean, I think you saw some really good examples in the video of just what the art of the possible might be. And with that, I'll pause there.
Excellent. Yeah, no, fantastic. We are super excited to have you on board. Like, we definitely want to see the larger view of the ecosystem, and I think at AWS you really get to see everything what's happening. So it's very exciting. And without further ado, we'll bring up Nathan Miller, who's CEO at Consensus Networks. And he's a former U.S. Navy military officer and sort of a nuclear submarine. So that's amazing. It's a nuclear submarine. That's a different conversation right here. You guys heard it first. If you have any nuclear questions, Nathan is your guy. But yes. So, but what's interesting about Consensus Networks is they are building and designing infrastructure and blockchain technology for supply chain. And I do believe recently they signed a deal, $1.5 million contract with the U.S. Navy, which is amazing. Like, U.S. Navy is huge, and the possibilities are endless, especially, as you proving what has been happening. And what's interesting, I know you're building IoTeX. Tell us about yourself, about your journey, and how did you was able to get from Navy such a great award?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I was in the Navy for 7.5 years, and on my way out of the Navy, I helped start and get Consensus Networks off the ground. We started out as an infrastructure provider, so thinking about hardware deployments, supporting a variety of blockchains. We actually got started early with IoTeX. IoTeX, we were actually one of the Genesis validators on IoTeX network, so we've been here since day one, and it's been a really cool journey to be with IoTeX and work on building. And we still do a lot of validation for a lot of different blockchains. But one thing we also realized really early on was this need to bring applications into blockchain, and so that became a big priority of ours, and it has been for quite a while now. We had a very early opportunity with the National Institutes of Health very early on in the company to look at blockchain technology in healthcare, and that really kicked off our healthcare journey. And we've been doing that ever since as well. And it's been exciting. It's been an extreme learning experience for me. My background is not in healthcare, but I've been fortunate enough to find a lot of really good people to join our team who have deep experience in healthcare and have really gotten HealthNet to the next level. And so what HealthNet is today, what it's become as we've worked on development and got customer feedback and have worked on commercialization, is this integrated data environment. And primarily our use case is in supply chain today, medical supply chain. So working to track medical supplies from manufacturer through the supply chain into health systems. There are huge inefficiencies in medical supply chains, and we're working to really work on fixing those things. It's a big problem, and so there's some specific areas we're tackling initially. You can't tackle the whole supply chain in day one, so there are some very specific things we're tackling, but a lot of those improvements can be done with IoT devices, and so we're really excited to be able to think about how we can create this environment. And it's not just using blockchain. There's a lot of other technologies, IoT, cloud, and more that we're using to be able to do this. So excited to share more about that as this goes on. Excited to be here and talk to everybody. And yeah, I guess to answer the Navy question, I joke with my friends that I'm working for the Navy again. We had this contract. It was not a planned thing. I didn't join Consensus thinking I was going to be working for the Navy again, but they are interested in improving their supply chains for much the same reason that everybody else is, driving down inefficiencies, improving the ability to deliver supplies where needed, and accurately do so, forecast demand and things like that. And so it was a natural fit for our technology to plug in with theirs. Excellent.
No, we're real excited, and it's and I think it just shows how far blockchain has gone so far that the U.S. government is looking into exploring it, AWS is looking into exploring it. So I think we're just at the precipice of the next growth. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Chad Liang, who's VP of listings at Bitmart. And Bitmart is a top-tier trading platform for exchanges. They're buying and selling digital assets with over 5.5 million users around the globe. Founded in 2018, Bitmart supports over 200 cryptocurrencies and trades in 180 countries. And I do know they recently listed IoTeX. So it's pretty exciting. Chad, please join and tell us more about it.
Okay, hi guys. Okay, it's my pleasure to be here. And yes, we are a premier global digital asset trading platform, and we are officially operated on March 2018. And so far, we just reached 5.5 million of registered users globally with more than 180 countries. And our daily trading volume reached $4 billion US, and we are headquartered in Cayman Island and with branches in New York, in Hong Kong, and South Korea. And so far now, we are offering more than 500 trading pairs in spot market and also 15 trading pairs in future market. We are having the IoT project in a different way. We are giving projects a large pool of potential users, and also providing users more high quality crypto assets to trade.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And it's definitely excited. I know IoTeX was recently not available in the US. Now it is. So we'll talk a little bit about it a little later. But now, without, with a drum roll, there we go. We have coming in Roland, landing hot. He's a co-founder and CEO at IoTeX. So a little bit about IoTeX. It has been, it's based in Silicon Valley. It's blockchain and IoT company, and it's backed by 30 plus top tier engineers and research scientists from Google, Facebook, Uber, and much more. So Roland himself has been a cryptography research scientist, and he was head of cryptography at Uber and security engineering lead at Google. So amazing pedigree. So Roland, please tell us about IoTeX and share what's your mission.
Sure. Thanks for having me, everyone. So this is Roland, CEO, co-founder of IoTeX. Probably many of you already know, like we started back in 2017 with, just 3 co-founders, and rapidly actually, expanding to 40-ish people globally right now. We have done like a big round of fundraising in 2018, and that's where we start to expand. IoTeX, in terms of vision and mission, like we want to build like this backbone for decentralized machines in this world, right? So we call it the Internet of Trust Things, or DAO of Things. So IoTeX, in terms of like a technology, is basically like a 2-layer network. So the first layer is POS, or like a blockchain, which we built from scratch in 2018 and 2019. Actually, we launched this blockchain in 2019. Which has been running in production for almost 2.5 years. Still, everything's going great. We have 16 million transactions, roughly 100K users actually using our blockchains to do lots of daily transactions. So that's the blockchain part. And on top of the blockchain, which is like keeps me and the team very busy, is about IoTeX 2.0. We haven't made any official announcement about this one, but this is kind of like what keeps me very busy. We want to build like a layer 2 network on top of the layer 1 blockchain to being the gateway to connecting the things in a decentralized and a democratic way to the crypto world, right? So that's why our mission is called building the connected world in a decentralized way, for short. So that's our IoTeX. The journey so far has been great. Before IoTeX, I led like a security team at Uber. Basically, every time you use Uber to hailing for a car, most likely in the US right now, that's basically like me and my system behind. So that's a great journey. I stayed there for just 1 year. And even before that, I was leading a team at Google, basically handle lots of cloud and security related initiatives. For example, like we built this product called Google Cloud Load Balancer, which still makes Google like a probably $20 million US as a revenue every year. So being very successful. Yeah. Then even before Google, I was like a cryptography research at Waterloo. That's where I got into the Bitcoin and Ethereum at the very early days. Yeah. So that's about me. So I will just pause here.
Excellent. Yeah. No, we're excited. I'm super excited to have everyone on this panel. There is so much to learn. I think a lot of people don't know, what is blockchain and what is IoT? Why is it important? So I want to kind of throw first question to you and see, what are your thoughts on it? So, like, for example, why are there so much buzz about connected smart devices? Are they important? So what do you think? Like, let's feel free Let's go with I'll start with Roland, and then we can kind of roll from here. So why are they important?
Yeah, of course they are, right? So in 2015, probably like we will have 100 billion of devices, while we're having probably 10 billion of people, meaning like everyone is having 10 devices in average around him or her, right? So this is like amazing. Like the life will become much better, but at the same time, we're seeing a problem right now. It's probably 98% of device and data is actually controlled by just 2 or maybe even 1% of centralized entities. So they will be the ones who controlling your life forever, maybe in 2015. So that's why like we want to solve this problem. It's a big problem. It's about the democracy of the devices and data, and also like how we can give the device and data back to the human being. So that's why we're starting IoTeX. We are trying to build this one. It's this backend, decentralized way to help people to claim their right of the data and device. Yeah, so that's a such important problem to be solved.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else wants to jump on this?
I'll take a crack at it. So, I look at the blockchain space more broadly as how do you, as a mechanism for automating accountability, right? And so, we have a lot of tools available to us in blockchain, right? One is the most powerful thing I think is the notion of smart contracts and the ability to actually codify, a code of conduct or business ethics. Or even rules of engagement, into a smart contract, I think is really interesting. And the idea of being able to use that as a tool so that when an individual, an organization, or even a device, makes a statement that they're going to execute a certain function, that they are actually held accountable to executing that function. And I look at that as, well, that's interesting, right? Because in business, that's what we do. We try to put in place procedures and mechanisms to drive that accountability, at least within, at a human to human level. And we have large legal contracts and whatnot from an enterprise to enterprise perspective. But the opportunity to do this at a machine to machine perspective, I think, is really interesting. One is because, as Raullen pointed out, there are hundreds of millions of devices around the world that are in some way, one way or another, connected to the internet. And if I look at my own home, I've probably got at least 100 IoT devices. And they pretty much all talk to the internet through one mechanism or another. Either it's direct or through, an aggregator or a gateway. But one of the things that I think is really important is, as we look at how we apply that notion of immersive IoT in an industrial context or in a business context, is how do we ensure not only the efficacy of the data that is coming off of all of these devices, but actually how do we ensure the security of all these devices at the same time? And so as you layer in, not just efficacy around data that is produced by devices, but also layering the integrity of command and control that affects changes on these devices, how do we ensure accountability in all of that? Right. And I think that's where blockchain's got a really unique role to play. And then when we, take that model further and say, well, now these devices are autonomous, they're conducting business on behalf of an individual, an organization, potentially even another machine. Again, how do we maintain that integrity and accountability in that model? So very much, I'm looking forward to the future of the machine-to-machine economy, which I think is going to be, immensely large. But I think what we need to kind of the journey that we're still on is really discovering what that actually means, right? And I think some of the work that we did back at Trusted IoT Alliance and with IoTeX, really shows the art of the possible. And I think the next 5, 10, 15 years are going to be really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so that's the thing, right? It's like what is it? What will be the future? So for I think we'll move to the next question. This is going to be is more of a kind of what are the current state of Internet of Things, IoT and blockchain? Because I know, for example, a lot of people say, well, blockchain is slow, or blockchain is expensive, or how do we solve this? And I think that this is still thinking a few years ago, because if we look now, those problems has been mostly gone. For example, I know at IoTeX, that problem has been, been being more or less solved. So I'll be curious to hear everyone's view on, where are we in current state of IoT and blockchain? So anyone want to take a pot shot at that? Nathan, how about you?
Sure, I'll take that one. Yeah, I think a lot of times, people, when they say blockchain is too slow or it's too expensive, they're kind of thinking of it in kind of a singular way or a way where it's kind of this home run where one size fits all approach, and this technology, if it doesn't solve all my problems, well, it's worthless. Or if I can't use it today in what I think it should be used in, then it's worthless. I think technology takes time to develop. And so there's both lots of improvements that have been made over the years, but there's also a lot of things to come that we can't necessarily predict right now. So I think there's just tons of possibility. But what I do think, to just speaking about today, though, I think where blockchain comes in is it's really great to be able to have it and use it as part of a system. And that system isn't just a blockchain system. It's a system where we have IoT devices and we have cloud applications and we have front-end web applications. But we need to integrate a lot of this information. We need to integrate data. We need to integrate people, integrate devices, bring in physical assets, bring in digital assets. And we need to bring these things and be able to do it around the world with a lot of different people. And the trust levels are different and varied, and there's a lot of complexities there. There's laws that are different. There's regulations that are different. If we talk about healthcare, you've got GDPR in the EU, and then you've got HIPAA and regulations here in the United States, and they're different. And we have an international community that travels and at various times falls under different regulations and all this kind of stuff, supply chains. And so it's complex and complicated. And so where I think blockchain is part of this system, and it helps be able to create this global digital system that can transcend boundaries, borders, and bring information and people together in ways, over the internet and digitally that we couldn't do before. And so I think that's really the where it's working today to grow, IoT and to grow the connected world.
Yeah, I share lots of thoughts like Ned is saying here, right? He's talking about here. So basically, IoT as of today, it's a very closed industry, meaning like there is too many stakeholders in the IoT for IoT product, for example, right? And every party is kind of very close in terms of their code, their technology, the way it works, which kind of being like the showstopper for lots of innovations that we are seeing in the internet industry. But because internet is kind of very open, it's basically given lots of open source infrastructures, open source tools, and applications, right? So internet is very free and open, but IoT is not. So we do want to take this spirit from crypto basically to revolutionize the entire IoT industry to make it open. So openness actually will lead to innovation and then leads to like a prosperity eventually. So that's kind of like my theory. So that's why like IoT as of now is a very fragmented and closed industry. And that's why like what we're working on.
Exactly. Chad, I know you haven't jumped in yet. Do you want to jump in a little bit of your thoughts on blockchain and some of it?
Yes. Actually, in terms of people saying blockchain is slow, but I think it's already past. It's a past tense, right? I think the blockchain industry is already growing faster than we can expect, and there's a lot of faster mainnets already that they're building, like Polygon or like your IoTeX, right? They're all much faster than we thought before. So I think in the near future, the speed probably won't be existing anymore, and there's still huge potential for IoT. And for our daily life and also beyond in the medical or agriculture or manufacturing and or even in the energy industry. So that there will be more important in the near future, and I believe the IoT and the blockchain can develop together really quick.
Absolutely, yeah. And what we're really seeing is that I think the scalability in the last few years. So just to give you a little bit of a background, I've been running blockchain group events since the last 5 years in blockchain, and I remember 2017. It was such a beginning, right? It was all ideas and concepts. And now, 4 years later, 5 years later, we're in a completely different world where possibilities and what's possible is, I would say, incomparable. So Anup, maybe you can jump in and tell us, what are you seeing at AWS and how it's been changing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think from the previous question, and I think Nate he hit the nail on the head. And by the way, Nate, thank you for your service. What's really important is not all blockchains are created equal, and nor should they be, right? If we were to take Satoshi Nakamoto's paper and envision that with slightly different nuances, let's say with an IoT context, it probably would become something completely different. But that said, the narrative would still stick, right? The narrative of decentralization, the narrative of immutability, tamper resistance, tamper evidence is still consistent, right? And so I do think that there is room for a multitude of blockchain networks to exist, and they should. And from our perspective, from an AWS lens, we are protocol and ledger agnostic. Frankly, we love them all, right? Because this is a space that is still growing. Right? We're still trying to identify the ingredients that make up the pie of the total addressable market. We actually don't know how big the market is going to be how big it's going to be, right? So this is a space that is still growing. It's still in formation. Yes, we've seen a lot of innovation over the last 10 years. Since I got into the blockchain space, late 2014 or late 2015, back when, doing 7 transactions per second was pretty cool, right? Now, certain protocols can do 20, 30, 50,000 transactions per second. Sometimes some protocols even rival, the established, credit card networks in terms of throughput, right? So we are seeing an absolute evolution in protocol performance. I would say, we have some more work to do on actual scalability and breaking that inverse relationship where as scale increases, performance drops. There's some really good innovation that's going on right now. So, I'm looking forward to seeing some of that. But I think also, as I look back to kind of the role that we play at AWS, like how do we ensure the integrity of that we employ from an infrastructure perspective has visibility all the way at the application layer, right? Potentially even within at the smart contract layer. So we, truly provide end-to-end visibility of not just the value chain, that a blockchain network might impact or be involved in, but also from a technology and a solutioning perspective, how do we provide that line of visibility from infrastructure all the way up to the application layer? And I think that's where some of the lessons learned that we're going to have coming out of IoT and blockchain can really be, applied in other industries from an infrastructure perspective.
Excellent. Yeah. For what I've been seeing is that the spectrum of where a blockchain applies is starting to really, almost to any industry. If you look at it, as the speed increases, the possibility increases as well. So let's jump to the next question, and this one is fun for everybody. So this is very applicable to the most people. So in the future, how will blockchain and IoT impact the life of an average person? And what do you think? We can start with Roland because I know you live and breathe this every day. So let's see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say like IoT or maybe we call it like life 3.0. Like a device or machine will eventually be part of the human being, right? No matter in what form factor. Like we are seeing cyborg, like you half human, half machine. So that's a kind of one form factor. Another form factor would be like, I'm just sitting here, then all the machines and devices just around me and serving me in a way. So that's another form factor. Like we don't know yet which form factor we will have. Probably like a small chip or maybe transplant into your like a body or somehow. But definitely, like this will be very important part of life, because as a being, right? So like a human being, they have their own kind of limitation. That means like we are not evolving fast enough. But like a machine, so they have this like a mechanism behind, like they can just improve themselves very fast. So yeah, I have no question about this one.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. And so anyone who wants to jump in, I think this is applicable to everybody. Let's see. Nate, maybe you want to jump in and share some thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I think just, what Roland said, I think that is definitely happening even today, right? I think probably a lot of people are familiar with the story of the former Vice President Dick Cheney. He had a pacemaker installed, and they disabled Bluetooth on the pacemaker. And this was a long time ago. This was, probably, almost 20 years ago, I guess, right? And so they were that worried about someone being able to take over a device and kill the vice president. And so I think as IoT becomes more and more ingrained in our life, whether it's your Apple Watch or an implant or something like that, and especially if it's health related, it's going to become extreme. Security will become very, very important, and we won't necessarily be aware of all the risks as we kind of use these technologies that improve our lives, and we see the benefits. It's going to be up to the developers and those building to really think about the risks that could be there. And so we want to make sure that from the get-go, these new products are really beneficial and also very secure. And so I think it's going to be a huge impact for everybody, and it's going to be really important that because of that impact, we're designing with that in mind.
Art, I think you're on mute.
Chad, do you want to get a crack at this question and see what's possible?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, actually, given like we are in exchange, so we'd like to see crypto overtake fiat in average person's holding, right? But in the short term, we expect that there will be like more crypto transactions and will regulatory advances, banking service that can like are more decentralized. So on the IoT side, I think we are already seeing smart home systems integrating with increasingly, right? And I'm sure IoTeX and Amazon continue to their effort to make this a seamless experience.
Yes, it's Anup would like to get a shot, and that's a really, I think, applicable to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting here is that as I look at kind of how blockchain and IoT might affect the human condition, right? Which is kind of the perspective I take. There's a really famous story of how hackers were able to hack a smartwatch and a network of smartwatches to identify a U.S. military black site. And the reason why they discovered this was, joggers were jogging around a track in an area where there really should not be any of these devices, right? And so, that just goes to show you that if there were a mechanism that allowed you to provide, access to information or data that was protected by a blockchain network that was, integrated into your end device, now you've got, a means of, further protecting your identity, right? And not putting at risk others, right? And so, I think that's the kind of, impact that I'd like to see is, how do we protect, self-sovereign identity? How do we ensure that? And then how do we apply that to machines so that machines don't, inadvertently, reveal information, let alone about, other people or people in general, but, inadvertently reveal, information about machines themselves, right? So I think these are the kinds of things. It's like a protection mechanism in a perimeterless security environment that will have the impact on the human condition. So it's kind of thinking through the long term of the impact of blockchain and IoT. But I think that's really where the opportunity is. And then from a transactional volume perspective, I mean, we're going to see some amazing volumes coming out of that. So any exchanges that are looking for that kind of volume and creating very interesting packages of products around that kind of data would be really, really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so let me jump into a question of what are some more new and exciting projects that excite you and what being built? And we can talk about even like devices or projects like Roland, for example. I know there's UCAM and Pebble, so maybe you share a little bit. I know you're excited about that, so maybe tell us a little bit why UCAM is so cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited about projects that will be fundamentally having impact on this real world, right? For example, like a UCAN is a project we have been working on last year with our a partner, which is a manufacturer. So this started out as a smart camera manufacturer. So this is a lot of these cameras actually, but they have a pain point here is a data privacy problem. I'm sure like everybody's seen the news, like Tesla, they leaked their maybe video data probably 3-4 months ago. And there are other vendors who's leaking the data as well. So consumers, they have full about how secure and private my home would be under the surveillance of this camera, which they install at home, right? So we just have our technology to solve this pain point perfectly. So that's why we partnership with 10ways, which is like this smart home manufacturer. So we together put this a UCAN as a product to all the consumers, to all the families. As of now, thanks to Anup for sure, this one has been selling on Amazon.com. So all the just a normal people, so they can just purchase this one without any friction at all. And the use of this one is easy. It's very easy. So they don't have to understand lots of deep tech about blockchain, about crypto, about token economics. No, none of them. It's very easy. So as of now, 6,500 a UCAN has been sold to people who's in 60 countries or so, as far as I can remember. So this has been a very successful product so far. And another one, which is even more interesting, we work with Nathan's team very closely on this one, is we have an open source hardware. It's called People Tracker. It's basically it's a physical device that collects 6 dimensions of data, like a temperature, humidity, acceleration, GPS, lots of data from the physical world in a very verifiable way. The principle being very simple, the moment the data gets collected by those sensors on the board, it will be signed by some secure chip on the device, then send it back to the blockchain, where the smart contracts can tell, oh, it's a fake data or it's a real data. Based on the trustworthiness of the data, the smart contract can do some logics, like a weather derivative, like some NFT games. There are some metaverse applications which is coming as well. So it's a very cool piece of work. Nathan's team, I think they are doing a very good job by using this one to integrate this one with the medical supply chain, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so definitely there are more projects coming in this fashion. As I just probably talk about, so we are working on the IoTeX 2.0, which will be the focus on the DAO of things, meaning we are building this product layer that allows device developers or maybe applications just jump onto the IoTeX network frictionlessly, and just opens up their creativity to see how the blockchain can change this physical world fundamentally.
Absolutely, yeah, it's very exciting. So it's definitely the projects like from IoTeX and others really show what's possible. And I think for a lot of people, maybe they don't understand blockchain. They don't know what do I do. Things like UCAM, that is so easy to set up, and they can get it for under $50 or $50, something like that. It's an amount that very competitive. That's something that I think shows reality and possibility to other people, which was not possible before. I know this is very recent. So let's talk about let's say anybody new projects, right? Let's say Nathan, what's your favorite in blockchain projects? Tell us, what's any favorites?
Sure. Yeah. Well, Raullen mentioned Pebble, and I think there's just when you talk about a supply chain, there's just so many use cases. That's, we could be here for several hours kind of talking through. We probably won't get through very many, but I think the Pebble tracker is a great example of having some flexibility, especially when we're developing, we're testing out use cases. Having something like the Pebble that can do a lot of different things, so we can really test out a lot of different functionalities is great. But I think a scenario to think about that it could be really cool is, medical supplies have a lot of different requirements. Some have expirations. Some have temperature requirements. The COVID-19 vaccine is a great example of that, where they have temperature requirements. And so you want to be able to track those things, the supply chain, track the expiration, track temperatures and things like that. And then I think as things go on, in the clinical trials, another great example of that, where the supply chain becomes even more important in the clinical trial, because we need really tight controls along the supply chain as that product moves through. But in that use case, I think one way where blockchain comes in, you have, especially if we're talking about clinical trials, you have this immutable record of what happened, of what the temperatures were, of very specific things that gets mutually recorded, and agencies like the FDA can come back later, look at everything and say, yeah, this was, they've got this record of data, and that's really great, way better than paper records for sure. And these are processes that are really tight, and they're expensive processes. And so saying a blockchain is too expensive isn't necessarily true in this case, because it's already, it's extremely expensive the way it is. And so automating that would be good. And then, you can, then you bring in something like smart contracts, right? And you can say, all right, now, hey, this product expired, or this product exceeded temperature on the road. We know that it did. We can have an automated resolution of the purchaser of that doesn't have to worry about going back to negotiate and saying, hey, these things came in, they expired, and we didn't know about it, and now we got to go to court and all this kind of stuff. You can resolve that on the blockchain, where you have a smart contract in place that says if the temperature exceeds this in this part of the transit, it's this person's liable. And so you remove a lot of the barriers, a lot of the legalisms that are needed to protect medical supply chains. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff there that we can do. I think one of the use cases I'll just say is, I'm excited about healthcare itself, so I don't want to monopolize everything here, but I think on the flip side, where we can talk about some very cool things, thinking about when medical supplies are actually used in something like the operating room, there's not really a good way for practitioners to track when a medical device is used. Maybe it's a new hip and it's put into a patient. How do you track that beyond the point that it's just that the operation has happened? How do you know which hip is better than another hip? Is a striker hip better than whatever other generic hips on the market? And we don't really have good ways to answer that question today, because it's very hard to kind of track that sort of thing. It's not really the doctor's job to track the hip. Right? Their job is to replace the hip and do a really good job of doing that. But they're kind of forced to do a lot of these tracking processes that are manual. And so it's really important that we automate those processes. That will, number one, allow the doctors to focus on doing what they do best, which is surgery. And number two, allow us to know which hip is better and which, what are the long-term health outcomes from using various things. And so I think automating those processes, that's going to take IoT devices and using blockchain as a backbone to provide kind of a mutable record of what went on and what happened to these products throughout their life cycle. It's really important that we do that. So excited for that for sure.
Yeah. So much opportunity. I'm glad to see just every which way the blockchain growth because it's needed technology. And that actually takes us to kind of the next question, but on top of this question, which is what are some really cool Launchpad projects there are? And I know specifically Chad at Binbard is working on some amazing projects. So Chad, maybe you could tell us more about what are you doing, what is Launchpad, and why it's so important for the projects.
Yes, actually, I think there's so many great projects coming from the Launchpad nowadays. And Launchpad actually creates win-win scenarios for everyone involved. As the exchange, we get to gauge project quality, right? And active followings and so on. And we get a better idea of our projections and how much support we need to allocate. And to the users, the Launchpad can help them to do some researches, like stake their uh, uh, assets and be rewarded with more than the project they back they launched, right? And the project size, they can get exposure to crypto enthusiasts and who might not have been aware of their existence. And the system works brilliantly, and we are currently work closely with some good launchpads like Dollmaker and Republic. And yeah, currently actually we're in touch with a few interesting projects are coming from the Launchpad, and most of them are maybe not IoT related, but the gaming is one of the most popular sectors these days. And one of them is called DeFi City, and that was very interesting. It's a project that makes a DeFi yield farming a game, right? And you'd buy a unique NFT-based city with DeFi City tokens. And then you could provide liquidity, borrow, lend, stake, and harvest your farming yield across the different DeFi platforms. And each farm would be a building in your city. So that is one of the interesting one. And also there's another one on Solana. It's called Solana Sail. And it is also a game, it's a battleship game. And you can use Sail tokens to build your battleship and fight other players. And the token will be burned if you lose. So it is like a new way of deflation, right? And what I can see is as long as the gaming sector is developed, and there should be more maybe like AR or VR devices or wearable devices, and maybe we can relate it to IoT part.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's Anup, what about yourself? Any interesting projects that you're really excited about? Yeah, please do share your experience. And
yeah. So the one project that I was really excited about was back at the Trusted IoT Alliance when we ran the Mobility Grand Challenge, and that was the Smart Mobility Design Challenge, and that was the one where Bosch had given us access to their electric Jaguar, and we blockchain enabled it. All right. And, the car was driven from Barcelona to Berlin, and, we did multiple projects on that vehicle. And, I think what was interesting as an outcome of that was it truly showed the art of the possible, right? Of what, blockchain and IoT might mean in a more relatable context, which is how do you own a vehicle? How do you charge for that vehicle? How do you park that vehicle, right? So how do we kind of democratize or de-technologize the conversation of blockchain and IoT? I mean, blockchain and IoT are on their own two very complex topics, right? So how do we exactly? So how do we have a conversation where we're not lost in the techno mumbo jumbo of two industries that are now coming together, but really translate projects and opportunities to things that the average person can understand, right? And I think one of the interesting nuances that came out that I think is I think would be very powerful down the road is that we were able to show that this is a data rich environment. Right. When you take, blockchain and IoT, you do something as simple, quote unquote, as shoving it into an electric vehicle, right? And what comes out? Well, you've got the opportunity to look at new machine learning patterns, right? There are entirely new data sets that emerge, and so now how do we provide attestation of those data sets to potentially a network of machine learning algorithms? So how do we now build an ML DAO, right? That combined with an IoT or device DAO, I mean, I think the intersectionality is immense. The opportunities are huge, and kind of these are the kinds of projects that I'm really excited about. Right, is when we take these orthogonal industries, combine them together, and then generate some really wonderful outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so it's I kind of I mean, you already answered it, but that's one of the AWS project that you're exploring in at Amazon, and I think I want to. Excellent, you answered that question. We don't have to even ask you that one.
Yeah. So just to kind of be specific on this one,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I like to explore is so everyone in this space who's been in this space long enough remembers the DAO, right? The original DAO and kind of what happened. And I think we've got some lessons learned in that space, and we understand kind of the nuances. And now we're seeing DAOs really evolve into something that's really modern and powerful. So the ML DAO that I spoke about, combined with an IoT or device DAO is I think an interesting intersection. But one of the things that I'm personally exploring is how do we create not quite the DAO in the classical context that we had in the definition from a couple of years ago, but how do we leverage the blockchain technology to allow virtually any company, a small mom and pop shop, to really perform and function like a hyperscaler, right? And I think by leveraging blockchain technology, by seeing advancements in smart contracts, by providing that data efficacy, infrastructure efficacy, we could potentially get down there, right? And so, that's really the power, and that's the thing, the kind of projects that I'm interested in is how do we really enable the creation of equitable opportunity for everyone, leveraging machine learning, IoT, blockchain technology. So I'll pause there.
Excellent. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so important for the smaller places that might not know it's powered by blockchain, right? So the big part is it's really the technology may be complex, but they don't necessarily need to know about it. It can be under the hood. I do know Walmart did something with that where they create an app, and their vendors did not even have to know it's blockchain. It was just an app. So ultimately, I think it has to become seamless, and I believe our panel will help us with that. So thank you guys. So Nathan, the next question is specifically for you. So I know you're. So how did you decide to build an IoTeX, and tell us a bit about your U.S. Navy partnership? But really, how do you choose technology? What go through your mind? So walk us through so everybody here in our audience understand what it takes for a company. Why IoTeX? What things were you look for? What did you look into before deciding that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, like I mentioned, we were involved with IoTeX early on. This was during 2017. There was a lot of projects being developed, and then going into 2018, when the crypto market kind of crashed and a lot of people took their eyes off crypto. It's a really great time because people were just kind of building then, and IoTeX was one of those groups. And I think the biggest thing, as we talked with Roland and his team, one area specifically that both our teams were very, very interested in working on, and we had a lot of conversations about early on, was trusted IoT, I guess, but trusted hardware devices, and thinking about how we create trust in these devices that are inputting into the blockchain. That was really important for us as we were exploring healthcare, because we understood that healthcare data is extremely, extremely important, and it needs to be trusted. And so a lot of those conversations early on really kind of kickstarted our relationship, and that desire to work on trusted hardware for IoT. That was really kind of, I think, the catalyst that has just kind of strengthened what we've been working on. That's continued, and I feel like every time we have a conversation with Roland or Larry, some of the other folks at IoTeX, yeah, it's something new, something exciting around hardware and trusted hardware, you know, and that kind of segues nicely into the Navy too, where we need to have trusted hardware, and hardware trust in the hardware is very important for anything that we're going to use in a Navy application. And so, you know, I think for us that, you know, that was important for us to understand hardware and understand how we can use it to really create secure endpoints into blockchain networks, into HealthNet for use in Navy applications. Yeah, I can talk more about the Navy if you want, and that project too, but I'll pause there.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think it definitely creates clarity for everyone that it's, you know, security and hardware. In fact, we had a question for audience, and we'll go right in there because it kind of encapsulates what Nathan just mentioned, and is what hardware is necessary to enable use of blockchain and supply chain, and how do you verify the security of the data? Roland, maybe you're able to kind of jump in on this one.
Yeah, sure. I can give a brief answer to this one. So, you know, IoT, blockchain, and AI, I think they just play different functions in terms of having this autonomous economic application, right? So, for example, AI can be seen as a brain for lots of applications. It just makes this application smart enough to do something like intelligent. And blockchain, I think, is like where the trust is actually coming from. So, blockchain is very good at, you know, engaging with different parties, probably like at scale, without initial establishment of the trust. So that's what blockchain is really good at. IoT, I think a lot of IoT actually falls under the category of sensing the whole world, right? Like the question you're asking here, the supply chain definitely needs some way to sensing how everything works. For example, if you have a camera here, say, oh, if my thing's still like in this warehouse, or if you just put some sensors into the box to see if the box has been opened, if the box has been moved from A to B or not. You know, lots of IoT is actually, you know, at the sensing layer. Then this telemetry information can actually coming back to the blockchain to drive something which is out of the scope of IoT. I think that's kind of what is happening right now.
Absolutely, that's we're definitely seeing, you know, heavier integration, right? Where the software can be hacked and hardware gives you safety. So it's I think that's kind of the answers. And Nathan, as you mentioned, for military, you know, they cannot have a chance of software failing. It has to be on a different level of security, and it's great to see that it comes to real life, right? Like the concept of what's possible, and then go to a government and they go, yeah, that sounds great, let's try it out. Why not? So excellent. So I'll jump in another question from an audience. So what are on the way? We are on the way where all things will be connected. What types of devices can integrate this type of technology? Would large companies allow the integration of these types of technologies? And I think that specifically question kind of also hints at standardization and you know, the need for it. So it's I don't know, Anoop or Roland, you probably will, you know, who wants to go first, I guess. And Chad, you can go at some point too.
So I'll take a crack at that, right? So back at Cisco, we spent a lot of time and energy looking at device integration with blockchain technology, and of course, you know, the bread and butter of Cisco's business is switching and routing, so fundamentally a hardware business, right? That is moving to the cloud. What was really interesting in some of the early projects that we did, and probably one of the biggest enterprise blockchain networks at the time, was the supply chain track and trace solution that we built for Cisco supply chain. Now, a lot of people say, supply chain track and trace is kind of the blockchain 101 use case in our industry, and to a degree, they're right. But when you look at the amount of sophistication that is put in place for a Fortune 50 company to have a top 10, top 5 ranked supply chain ecosystem, the amount of sophistication that's in place is amazing, right? And so one of the questions that we asked ourselves is, if we are already hyper efficient in our blockchain, or sorry, in our supply chain operations, and in a company where 80% of what is manufactured, Cisco never touched, right? So it really literally goes from purchase order to a work order to a contract manufacturer. The whole thing is built, it's shipped by a third party, and lands at a customer's receiving dock. And what we wanted to do was understand, what are the opportunities here? And so we stepped back for a second and said, well, how do we show the value of blockchain technology as it's integrated with real physical things today? And so we landed on a supply chain anti-counterfeit, anti-gray market opportunity, and we literally registered 300 million products on the network. We were able to track them in real time around the world across our vendor ecosystem, to really show that, one, this can be done, two, as a means of actually solving a real business problem, right? Where we went from there was to look at, okay, well, now that we've got these devices, registered onto a blockchain network, and these devices plug into, an appliance, where does the story go from there? And now you've got a model where, a switch or a router or some kind of network device, can actually interrogate the devices or components that are being plugged into it. So, a switch could say, "Oh, I'm seeing a new optical module being inserted. Prove to me that you're supposed to be here." Right? And then the only response that the optical module might provide, or only piece of information that device might provide, is, well, here's my address on a blockchain network. You can go and inspect yourself, right? And so now you've got a model where your IoT devices, your infrastructure, can actually be a self-defending network, because everyone is interrogating one another, right? And so now you got a model or an opportunity to create, a score, if you will, of infrastructure that is grounded in devices integrating or interrogating one another.
Absolutely, yeah. And Roland, I would like to hear your opinion on this as well, because this is right up their IoTeX wheelhouse. So please do share some of your views.
Sure, I think that's an extremely interesting question, right? In terms of the types of device that can be integrated with IoTeX, I would think extremely dumb device, or maybe extremely intelligent device. So extreme dumb device, for example, like a 10-cent sensor, right? So which itself cannot do much. So it must be like a part of a bigger thing, a bigger application to be useful. So that's why, like, we're seeing lots of people. I think it's a very good example about this one. So like people can sense the environment, the context for a specific geolocation, but it has to work with other peoples in this world to make something very useful and impactful. And on the other end of the spectrum is like a very intelligent device. For example, like the Boston Dynamics. You guys must see this dog, which is can walk itself, can just open the door, can just do some smart stuff, right? So I think for very intelligent stuff, it definitely like a trust is missing here. I don't want this dog in my home, because this could be a killing machine the next day if it just gets compromised or something. There must be some trustworthy backend, to drive this dog how it works. So that's why I think, yeah. And with large company allow the integration of this type of technology, I think that's exactly the question we should ask ourselves. Why we depend so much on these large companies to drive the growth of IoT, right? So ideally, this should be like a self-evolving and open and free kind of ecosystem, like every intelligent people and every talented people can actually be part of them to contribute their genius, their talents and their thoughts to push the entire thing just going forward. So this goes back to what I mentioned about this openness leads to innovation, leads to prosperity theory earlier. Definitely, like we should make entire thing open and free.
Absolutely, and that kind of goes back into regulations. So there was actually a question from the audience. The new supply chain laws for EU and Germany made tech like IoTeX become obligatory in some of the EU countries. So how do you see the development, and how is IoTeX involved? But I mean, we can just jump into regulation and not really. IoTeX can be later. Chad, can you tell us what do you think of regulations and in crypto, and just what's your view on that?
Sorry, could you repeat your question?
The question is,
sorry.
So there is a lot of regulations that are coming in, right?
Yeah.
So what's Bitmart's view on regulations, and do you think it's is it important? Is regulations important in trading?
Yes, it's definitely very important. Actually, so far I think each country's government, they are still discovering how should they regulate crypto, right? Actually, I think all the countries, they are encouraging blockchain technology, but they are just want to limit the influence of the crypto. I think this is a path, right? They have to go through this. We cannot ignore. We cannot just try and go away from this. I think together with the time and the regulation should be more and more mature, right? And the market should be more fair. And under the a well-regulated market, I think it's actually a good thing for the traders. So so far, I think when a tough policy is going to out, the market reacted and dumped. But I think in the near future, this kind of thing will be less and less. So in my view, yes, we need time for the government to do a more complete policies and regulations to the crypto. Yes, but as long as we just keep our confidence there, I think we are all fine with it.
Absolutely, yeah, and regulations is right part of the security, and I think it's kind of all the panelists here agree that it's security and regulations will be important, and a technology like IoTeX one is going to be an important part of the next step. I think, Roland, I'll ask you about the, I think IEEE is, I think IoTeX in conversation about the standards. Can you share a little bit about it? Because I know that's goes direct to regulations.
Yeah. I think we haven't made this like an official announcement about the IEEE stuff, but definitely like we are engaging with like an IEEE standard association very closely, because we're leading one of the standardization of this IoT plus blockchain standard, and working with lots of big name and very impactful companies here. Yeah, definitely like the regulation will be one of the topic that's in the standard, because in different countries there's like regulations related to data to healthcare data especially is kind of different, right? So how can we consolidate all of them into just one standard and make this like as open as enough as possible, at the same time we still like regulate to the local policies. That's kind of challenge here.
Excellent, yeah. And Nathan, I know you're dealing with the regulations. I know maybe not in the EU, but generally, what's your take on it? Like, what do you think will be next for that?
Yeah, I think I think that what we will find is that new regulations, especially as they pertain to privacy and data, especially in the IoT realm, will trend towards the individual, empowering individuals more of their data, and that I think is an advocate for blockchain. So I think it will trend towards regulations in blockchain in general, and in that data management, data control will definitely trend in the direction for blockchain. There's definitely things that get worked out. For instance, the EU is a good example where you have the right to be forgotten. So that's, you have an immutable database that makes your ability to delete all your data tough. So there's some kinks to be worked out. In the same sense, though, there's definitely, on the flip side of that, there's other regulations that desire more personal ownership of data and that sort of thing. So there's some kinks to be worked out, but I do think that regulation will trend towards designs that empower people to control their own data.
Excellent. Yeah. And so the next question, actually, our audience, multiple people are asking from Firehorse. I don't know who this man is, or woman, or a horse, but it's on fire. So, so the Firehorse had a great question, and it's on everybody's minds, which is DeFi, right? DeFi is hot. NFT and DeFi, but there's not a question about NFTs, which I will throw it on you guys in a bit. But the question is, DeFi has been kicking off as a good blockchain application for mass adoption. How do you see the possible interaction between DeFi components in blockchain IoT in the near future? So is there something?
Yeah, I'll take a step on this one. So that's a great question, right? So at the very beginning, so let me just give you an example, like how people see the blockchain, how people recognize the blockchain. So at the very beginning, so they just see blockchain as a P2P network, like BitTorrent, right? Downloading files. But later they saw Bitcoin, like a blockchain is actually more than P2P. It has a consensus layer, which is great, right? So you can do this global consensus, have different parties doing consensus. It's a great innovation. And then later, that's actually Ethereum. People realize, oh, I can do a little bit of programming on top of the consensus layer. So I can have like a programmable money, right, at a global scale. So this is amazing. So this is how people see, this programming layer on top of this one. And then I think DeFi will be another common layer for almost every public blockchain. It's like a finance layer. Basically, you think about all the underlying layers as an infrastructure, as you're having a swimming pool, for example. Then you're just pulling waters, meaning like the monies or tokens, into this pool, right? So this becomes the DeFi layer here. Then build on top of this DeFi layer, you can have different sort of applications. We can focus on like a supply chain insurance in a decentralized way, right? So that's basically leverage some underlying liquidity from this DeFi layer. We can build like a for example, like a weather derivative, maybe traffic derivative, we don't exist as of now. So which will also leverage some underlying DeFi components like a stable coins, DEX, money market, maybe some yield farming stuff. So yeah, definitely DeFi is becoming a common layer for blockchain. That's my point.
Excellent. Yeah, and please do. I think everyone can really take a stab at this. I know Chad, you guys are dealing with DeFi, or at least seeing the projects on your Launchpad. So maybe you can go next and share your thoughts.
Yes, to be honest, actually, I never think about DeFi and IoT together. Yeah. So this question is very, very interesting to me, and maybe it's more like a brainstorming. Yeah, because so far, people are talking about DeFi with financial kind of stuff, and people are starting putting DeFi and NFT together. So I think DeFi and IoT, the combination should be make sense. Yes, but it's still a new area. I think it has a lot of potential, and maybe you still got the job to think about maybe a new product or a new production to develop this part. Yes.
Fantastic. Anup, what about yourself? You want to give it a shot?
Yeah, no, I definitely see a connection between DeFi and blockchain and IoT, or DeFi and IoT. We don't have to look that far, right? If we just look at sustainability, right? So sustainability, improving a certain level of sustainability requires integrity of data, integrity of process. Now, if you have companies or organizations that can actually prove and provide a high degree of efficacy around that data, now they can create liquidity around that, right? And so how do we collateralize carbon footprint and carbon footprint strategies, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we're actually exploring at the Open Sustainability Collaborative is a token or a DeFi asset, a DeFi liquidity pool that is based on progress towards sustainability objectives. So decarbonization, the creation of equitable opportunities, better management of land for food and water management. So the idea of creating a vehicle that allows for further investment into individuals and communities where they're making this kind of progress, provides for a win-win-win, where individuals are being incentivized and rewarded for their work. Communities are again being incentivized and rewarded for their work. And that communities includes organizations and companies that fit within that sphere. And at the end of the day, the Earth would be happier for it as well, right? So definitely see intersections between DeFi and IoT at the realm of sustainability.
Absolutely, and in fact, I know the sustainability is near and dear to your heart. Maybe like sustainability, do you see blockchain being sustainable? Like I get kind of like a quick follow up on this one.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of I would say still a lot of confusion around the early days of Bitcoin being so computationally expensive, and which means a lot of power, and cheap power is often dirty power. But I think the reality is that most folks have realized that criticism was coming or was already in place, right? And so we have seen a transition to renewable, mining being powered by renewable energy. So that's happening, and I do think that in the long term, as the total market cap of the crypto and the blockchain space continues to grow, we're going to naturally incentivize decarbonization.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to naturally incentivize sustainable outcomes. So it's a journey. We're probably in the first or second inning of that journey, but it's definitely going to happen, is my take.
Fantastic, yeah, absolutely. So going back to the DeFi question, is Nathan, you want to take a stab in this one?
Yeah, I think if I just look at DeFi and I think about applying traditional markets and how DeFi is going to kind of take over, and we're going to be able to trade futures of corn on decentralized networks and things like that. You can already do that, in fact, and I think all of these traditional markets are all driven by information, and I think all markets are just driven by information, and so as I think the intersection is really clear. In order to trade those markets, you need really good information to be a trader and to trade properly. Whether it's oil futures and there's a hurricane in the Gulf, you want to be able to have weather centers that are picking it up. And if you're the guy that can get that data quickly, you're going to be the guy making the best trades. Or a cold snap in the Midwest, killing a bunch of corn early on in the season. If you can catch that, you're gonna break the bank on ahead of everybody else. So I think IoT becomes extremely important to DeFi because they're going to be correlated in almost every way, I think. So yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Fantastic. Oh my God, that's such a different take, but yes, I think very, very eye-opening for our audience and just us, like how things can really interconnect when we don't know. By the way, everybody, we're getting close on the finish line. There is one question that few people asked specifically about IoTeX and some of the competitors or Helium. So I want to quickly throw it at Roland and maybe address. There's for example, I think about the Helium. What is what is it? How do projects work together? And also there's Helium, IOTA, right? A few other names that people have heard. But how does IoTeX stand out from them?
Yeah. So I have been talking with the Helium founders. I think probably 3-4 months ago. Yeah, very decent team, decent product. I love them. I think Helium is trying to solve this connectivity issue. Basically, they are competing with telecom companies like AT&T here, who's providing connectivity services, for example, to your phone, maybe other sensors, right? So what they're doing is basically deploy this small machine that provides LoRa coverage to probably nearby nearby devices. So you don't have to subscribe to AT&T to get connectivity, but you just subscribe to Helium network to get this connectivity. Yeah, I think that's very good. That's very good. That's actually built under us, right? So what we want to build is even on top of Helium's connectivity to connect the device at the logic level. For example, we are doing like the device management, give them identity so they can, come to the chain and they can just issue the data in a way they sign using their identity. And then we can have like applications on top of this one. So from this perspective, so we are, natural partners with Helium, like, yeah, in this way. IOTA, I'm not sure what they're doing. Not too clear about their, their roadmap. So, no comment here.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're on a finish line, everybody, and it has been an amazing panel. But we still got one more question, so get ready. It's not gonna, or it might blow your socks off. We'll see. We'll see on the answers. We make no promises, but we promise a lot. So also, so what can we expect in the future from your teams? Right. So this is for everybody. It's what's your vision? What are you really excited about? Really, what do you expect from the future? It's a general question that you can handle whichever way you want. I'll go from top to bottom for the ESA. So Nathan, what can we expect in the future from your team? I know you guys building. It's a really, you're really in the trenches. But I know, it seems like your future is very bright. So please do tell us.
Yeah, we're building, we're growing. And so I think, look to see us continue to build and grow. Roll out HealthNet in some live environments sometime early next year to really test it out with live data and get some actual in-situation feedback in a variety of supply chain use cases. And so those projects are really important for us. And so we're kind of laser focused on that for now. And there's a lot of regulatory and approvals that we need to be able to do this, because the potential of touching healthcare data is something that's really controlled. So it's not an easy task to do the pilots. But nonetheless, we're really excited about that. But beyond healthcare, we're still excited about other applications in supply chain. We're still focused on doing things with hardware and developing other connective hardware devices that can allow other use cases on blockchain. And so we hope to kind of roll out some other things there as well in the coming future. So yeah, excited to just keep building and growing.
Fantastic. And Anoop, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, so we never really comment or speculate on features, roadmaps, timelines, what have you. But what I would say is that from a partner lens, we've got a lot of great solutions that our partners have built, right? And I'm really looking forward to seeing the IoTeX team really build out the kinds of solutions that customers are really asking for, right? So things around supply chain, things around digital asset management, where those digital assets represent real world objects, to sustainability, right? I mean, I kind of described a future where sustainability and blockchain become hand in glove. And that's a future that I believe in, and I believe that it is achievable. So you're going to see from us. You're going to see more partners, more solutions. Nate, we should definitely follow up on a partnering discussion. But from that perspective, I'm super excited about the space. I'm super excited about what our partners are building, and how they're building it. I mean, I've never seen so much innovation in such a short period of time. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Oh, phenomenal, yeah, and it feels like there is innovation from everywhere. Chad, please share with us what your team is doing and what's future for you.
Yes, actually, we are a challenger in the exchange industry. Right? We are growing rapidly recently, and we are still working on several things in parallel. And in terms of listing, we are actually looking for new projects that are gems or up to the trend. And our goal is to provide quantity with quality. And on the product side, features like margin trading, savings and earnings, fiat withdraw, and soft staking, and also Bitmark charity are in the works. So some of them will be ready to launch in Q3 this year. And we are also planning on expanding internationally more, but we also take compliance seriously. So we are applying the exchange certificate or license in some key countries. And yes, we are hiring more talent to join us in all functions to do so.
Fantastic, yeah. And I know Bitmark just launched IoTeX last week on your exchange, listed on your exchange. And why did you guys decide to list IoTeX? I guess I'll follow up real fast.
Yes, beyond a solid project developing for years, I think IoTeX helps improve the physical world and our daily lives, right? And it's an opportunity creator. And the real use cases of blockchain are still limited. So too many projects are only focused on creating tokens and using them for financial purpose. So a project connected the physical world is very desirable for us. And so I have looked at your ecosystem. As you mentioned, UCam, Tab, and smart locks. They are all successful cases. So glad to see you are making our lives smarter. And another honest reason is that we are your first exchange in the US, so I can see the potential to make money.
Absolutely, and it goes hand in hand. And Roland, you're up next. Tell us about what's the next future for your team.
Yeah, so basically for IoTeX, the goal is growing, right? So from the network perspective, so we're improving, we are blueprinting this 2.0 layer on top of IoTeX. We're onboarding more devices. We're onboarding more like applications. We're engaging with developers. So definitely like everything is kind of blowing up right now on the IoTeX as they're showing. So we already have like quite a few like D apps and devices and some POC. Very nice POCs actually launched on IoTeX. So that's one. Another one is like we want to work with partners, right? So we are also growing our partners. For example, like the Anoop, Amazon, big technology companies who want to fully embrace new technology will be our great partner. And also we are partnered with crypto projects, which provides intrinsic value to the whole industry. So that's another one we're growing. 3, of course, we're growing the team for sure, right? So if you're interested in what we're doing, just drop me a line, Raullen at IoTeX.io. We are definitely like looking for talents who's want to work with us to drive IoTeX full speed to where we want to be.
Fantastic. Well, guys, that was incredible. This panel was so insightful, so much to learn about where we are, where we're going, so many new project opportunities. Thank you very much, audience. Thank you for coming and listening to our great panel. It was really incredible and eye-opening. I really learned a lot here. And just want to welcome, a virtual round of applause, I guess, although the real ones. Well, thank you, guys. Yeah, it was fantastic. So for everyone else, please, you can, I think you can look up all those companies and stay tuned. We're going to bring another panel next month, and there's going to be there's a lot of stuff happening. So just follow this channel, and and you will bring all the latest news. Thank you for coming.
Our world is powered by billions of smart devices that generate an incredible amount of data and value. This phenomenon is called the Internet of Things, or IoT. From smart homes and wearables to connected vehicles and renewable energy, the IoT is impacting everyone and everything. But today, the multi-trillion-dollar IoT industry is owned by centralized corporations that control our devices, mine our data, and earn huge profits with no value returned to users. IoTeX is here to change the status quo and build a future that empowers users, not corporations. We envision a world where everyday people can own and control their devices, as well as the data and value they generate. A vision we call the Internet of Trusted Things. By connecting the physical and digital worlds, IoTeX allows us to secure the data from billions of smart devices and extract value from it with next-gen D apps. Join IoTeX as we democratize access to the new machine economy and return power to the people. IoTeX is more than just a blockchain. It's a full-stack platform that enables trusted data from trusted devices for use in trusted applications. The IoTeX platform combines innovations in blockchain, identity, oracles, and hardware to make real-world data available to blockchain dApps for the first time. Secure hardware captures and signs real-world data that anyone can verify and trust. Real-world data oracles bring this verifiable data to the blockchain in a trusted manner. Decentralized identity enables humans and devices to own their data as digital assets. And blockchain enables users to earn and trade digital assets across the ecosystem of IoTeX dApps. The IoTeX blockchain is lightning fast and EVM compatible, allowing builders to port over Solidity-based dApps and tokens in minutes and enjoy ultra-low fees and 5-second block times with instant finality. Governed by a global network of delegates, IoTeX is the trusted and decentralized foundation to power your next big idea. IoTeX is the native token of the IoTeX network. Being an IoTeX token holder grants you voting power and allows you to participate in network governance. IoTeX is a utility token that can be spent and staked to access various applications and services in the IoTeX network. Delegates stake IoTeX to participate in network consensus and earn IoTeX rewards. Developers utilize IoTeX to power their dApps, create new tokens, and fuel crypto economics. Users spend IoTeX to access dApps, register devices, and interact with the network, and can also earn token rewards and voting power by staking IoTeX. The total supply of IoTeX is deflationary thanks to our burn drop tokenomics, where IoTeX is burned and airdropped to users after every new device is registered to the IoTeX network. As the number of dApps, devices, and tokens on IoTeX grows, the value and demand for IoTeX will increase, providing recurring incentives for token holders to grow and maintain the network. The IoTeX network is home to an ecosystem of dApps, tokens, and services that connect the physical and digital worlds. By bringing real-world data to blockchain, IoTeX enables an entirely new category of use cases where users can earn digital assets based on their real-world data and actions. All types of machines can be registered to IoTeX and deliver facts about the real world to the blockchain, a concept we call proof of anything. From proof of activity to fuel decentralized healthcare, to proof of safety to settle insurance contracts, to proof of green energy to fuel renewable energy marketplaces. Real-world data will change everything for blockchain and spark a new era of innovation on IoTeX. With IoTeX, we can unlock liquidity for real-world assets and create brand new digital assets that will flow freely across our network of on-chain applications, information markets, and mining farms. And thanks to cross-chain bridges to Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and other top blockchains, our digital assets will interoperate with the blockchain universe for endless possibilities. Join our global community of pioneers and help shape the future decentralized economy. Welcome to IoTeX.